Good afternoon. Well, welcome. And I hope that everyone has had a chance to grab what looks to be a delicious lunch. And welcome to this afternoon's 2020 State of Academic Affairs session. So I just thought that I would kick off today's session. I have to say that this is a bittersweet event for me, as this is our Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost Jim Lentini's last State of the Academic Affairs event. And I thought it would be nice if I just had an opportunity to say a few words about Jim. This is not the last occasion that we're going to have to fet Jim, so I'm not going to say everything that I want to say about him. But I did want to say just a couple of words. So first of all, I want to welcome Dana Lentini here with us today. Let's just give Dana a round of applause. Because I think all of us know that Jim wouldn't be where he is were it not for Dana. So thank you so much, Dana. So I think, as everybody knows, Provost Lentini is completing 7 years at Oakland University, and really that has been extraordinary, and he is going to be leaving behind an incredible legacy as he leaves us to become president at Malloy College in New York. And for me personally, this is truly a bittersweet moment. During Jim's 7 years here at Oakland, he's made really remarkable contributions in a variety of different domains, obviously in student success, in research and scholarly activity, in engagement, and obviously in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Jim has played a key role in our original strategic plan and subsequently in ensuring that we're executing on all of our strategic goals, on our mission, our vision, and now as we're establishing our values, and we're so indebted to the many things that he has done. As we think about student success, he has led our initiatives in our SEM plan and how successful we have been in student success in particular. During Jim's time, we have had a 14% in graduation rates, and we've doubled our four-year graduation rates, something that is really quite extraordinary, and I think we really need to give a round of applause for that. It's really remarkable. Just last year, under Jim's leadership, we were reaccredited by HLC, something, again, that is so important to us. None of us would be here if we didn't get HLC reaccreditation. Again, something that we're so very proud of. In research, we went from being ranked by the Carnegie Foundation to being now from an R3 institution to getting R2 designation, again, showing that we are increasing our research designation and research priority, something that we're also very proud of. And of course, our engagement in the community and in the world around us is increasing, and we're seeing evidence of this every single day. And we are improving how we are standing in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if you just look at our campus, you can see evidence of Jim's imprint everywhere around us. In particular, I'm so proud of the fact that our students will be learning. You won't be here to see this, Jim, but they'll be studying in new buildings, starting most predominantly in South Foundation Hall, and your impact on the new appropriation for that building is so very important. But additional buildings, just look around the campus and you can see evidence of Jim's imprint absolutely everywhere you look. And so the kind of impact that you have made during your 7 years here is so formidable and so impactful. And there's not a person in this room and beyond that doesn't know what Jim has done to make this university a better place. And it is truly remarkable. On a personal note, I have to say that when I came to Oakland 2.5 years ago, you have been such a remarkable colleague and partner and paved the way for me personally to be the president here. You have been at my side every single step of the way, and I just have to say that I will miss you tremendously. And so let's invite our senior vice president and our provost now to come and give us the state of academic affairs here. Welcome, Jim Lentini.
Thank you. Too kind.
I'm not sure if we're supposed to hug in this era of the coronavirus, but I made an exception for right now.
She did hesitate, I should say. Well, as usual, Aura, far too kind, but thank you for those really amazing comments, and it really means something to me. As you might recall, those of you who were here last year, as soon as I started talking, all the screens went up. And if it happens again, I'll know that was on purpose. So let's see if the technology holds this year. So we'll get into it today. I mean, it's been a remarkable 7 years for me personally. I'll talk maybe a little bit more about that at the end. I'll just start off this way, though. I know a lot of you were here 7 years ago, and when I had arrived, there was a long-standing president in place, and I've been through a few changes here, along with my colleagues on cabinet. And through it all, the thing that we realize at a university is that it's all of you who make the university run, right? I mean, you're the people who make this go, and we're going to see some things today that prove that out. And leadership does make a difference, of course, but the work that all of you do, from the cabinet level to the faculty to the staff, and our students are really what are important to the place. So if you look, starting this way, if you look at the headlines right now, I don't know how many of you look at the Chronicle or Inside Higher Ed. If you don't get their updates every day, if it's of interest to you, just see the headlines that come at you. And I bet you'll know the same ones if I were to ask you what are the main headlines. One of the ones that is there constantly, besides the coronavirus, which we'll talk about maybe just a little bit, enrollment crisis that's happening now. That's one of the headlines constant. You see the enrollment crisis. You see another one, student debt. Student debt is another one, constant. Just this morning, another headline came out about things like the value of higher education, and is it valuable? And these kinds of things, that perceptions about higher ed, and some of the things maybe we've done to ourselves, and maybe not done a good enough job advocating, have come back to bite us. But I still think, with all of this said, there's a lot of optimism for Oakland University, for one thing, and for higher education, but there's no doubt that we can't ignore the dangers around us, and some of the conversation will be about that. So what I decided to do today was do this a bit like a SWOT analysis. It's not a really in-depth SWOT analysis, but it gives the overarching kinds of things that are strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, as I see them, having been here 7 years and looking a bit into the future. Many of you were probably here when Lech Walesa was here. These kinds of things that Oakland has been able to do to bring these guests here to talk to our students and make the student experience great, certainly those kinds of things are wonderful. So some of the themes I'll talk about today: our academic programs are strong. We meet market demands. And this isn't the kind of conversation we would have been having 20 years ago, but now we really do need to talk about how we prepare our students for the market, whether they go on for a further education, but what are their job opportunities? Graduates have an impact in the region and state. I've heard recently the number we're using is about $1 billion of economic impact for our region. It's probably more than that, and we're trying to do some more study on that. Enrollment has grown over a 10-year period. Now that is remarkable, and I'll show you why. And really, when people talk to me about Oakland, and I can tell you, I've chaired the Michigan Association of State Universities Provost Group for a while. In fact, I think I'm the only provost who's still intact from when I got here 7 years ago. Of the 15 publics, I think I'm the only one. And a few of them had problems we saw about in the papers, but that's okay. We won't talk about that. But having been there, and people will ask me there, why is Oakland fighting? How are you fighting the trend? What are the things? And I think one of the things, some of these I just mentioned, good programs, all the excellent things we do, but we have to acknowledge as well that where we live, right here in Oakland County, is an amazing resource to us and our students. And some of these corporate partnerships and other things are really valuable to us. Our research trajectory, I'm going to show you where we're going with that, and I think it's very positive. Our faculty are strong. some of the research numbers we'll get to. I saw Wayne Thibodeau back there. I want to thank Wayne for giving me some of the updated information on the placement rates for our graduates. The other thing we can tell parents and students, come here to OU and you will be successful. 90% of you are going to find a job. You're going to go on to further education if that's what you seek. 96% stay in Michigan, an enormous point. A lot of great universities in this state, all with different missions. But OU is one of those that make a difference right here in Oakland County, but certainly all around this region and state. Our campaign, I see Mike Westfall here. Appreciate you being here, Mike, and I just got some info from him. We're about $67 million toward our $150 million goal, unless it changed in the last couple days. It's up, it's higher, of course. That's good. And we're having this campaign. I think the last one that had been run was 2009. So it's been a long while since a campaign has run. This is going to be critical to the future funding model. Higher ed funding models are very much challenged. Campus safety. I put this out there. This isn't just for academic affairs. This is for the whole university. But there are a bunch of ranking systems out there in the world. I'm not necessarily keen on quoting the specific sources. I'll tell you this one, which was a security center. There's a website for this one. Ranked as 10th in the country for safety. But almost no matter which ranking you look at, we're somewhere in the top 10, and sometimes it's even higher than the top 5. Location, I mentioned, is important, but in addition to that location, if you just go to the Oakland County website, it shows you there are 1,000 foreign-owned companies in Oakland County, 1,000, and from 40 countries. So talk about the experience for our students to not only stay here, but branch out internationally. It's an amazing opportunity. As Ora mentioned, we did move up to the Carnegie 2, our 2 status. That's because of all the great work our faculty and others are doing. And here, I'm just going to rattle through some of the things from each school. There's no way in a talk of this variety to tell you all the wonderful things that everyone's doing, but Dean Mazzio's here. We don't chase rankings, but we do get ranked. And Tier 1 by CEO Magazine for the SBA, Best Business Schools in Princeton Review, and they are ranked for the Part-Time MBA and U.S. News and World Report. I see Dean Shamra here. He and his faculty have done remarkable things this year, some great headlines. Mechanical engineering grad ranked 3rd in the country, 3rd for income after graduation. Maybe you saw that headline. That's remarkable. I'm going to show you in a second the schools we're talking about here that were 1 and 2. 10th in the country for undergraduate in electrical engineering. U.S. News ranks them in the best engineering schools, and they have several other rankings that show up in U.S. News and World Report. College of Arts and Sciences, U.S. News ranks for Best Public Affairs Program, the MPA, and grad program of Biological Sciences. School of Nursing, 18th in the country for nurse anesthesia. That's been a highly ranked program for a long time. So it's one of the highest rankings we have, so kudos to Dean Didion and the work that goes on there. And also, it's listed under Best Nursing Schools in U.S. News and World Report, and the DNP is also ranked. School of Health Sciences ranked in Best Public Health Schools in U.S. News Report, same for physical therapy, and another of these online rankings. There are several. We use them. Why not? I mean, they're looking at good criteria when they do this. Top 25 in the environmental health and safety area, top 25 for School of Health Sciences. I didn't see Dean Meswa here today, but I see Bob Noiva and some others, Bob McCauley and others from the School of Medicine. It's been a big year for the School of Medicine. Every year, I don't know if you see this headline, do pay attention to it. Every year, the residency placements in medicine for our graduates of the OUWB School of Medicine are absolutely amazing. Cleveland Clinic, Johns Hopkins, Harvard Medical, Mayo, and I could go on and on. Really amazing placements. But this year was a special challenge. So Dean Meswa, who I want to credit, and the whole team, some of whom are here, Dean Meswa came into a leadership transition. At the same time, we were doing a major reaccreditation, LCME reaccreditation. And this was going to be a steep curve. New leadership, all the challenges that come along with that accreditation anyway. We just got word, I think it was within the last week and a half, that we received the maximum 8-year reaccreditation for the School of Medicine. Kudos, let's give them a hand for their great work. There will be some challenges, like all accreditations, and some things to tackle, but with that 8 years, it's going to give us a lot to work on. Graduate school, increased graduate assistance stipends. It's been a long time coming. I think probably there's going to be more work to do there, but we at least moved in the right direction. We have a research conference coming up this Friday. Susan Aubry's here as the interim dean in the graduate school. 200 participants or more this Friday. And 8th straight year, the international grad enrollment has been up, so that's good. Honors College. I think Graham couldn't be here, Graham Harper, but let me mention that this always, none of us, I wouldn't have gotten into school here with these statistics. For one thing, it's grown for 8 straight years in the Honors College with enrollment. And just look at the average GPA of the freshman class was 398, the highest ever. And now, I'm not talking about presidential scholars. That's just the average incoming class. The presidentials, those scores, they're too high. I can't read. 1420 on the SAT, 3.9 or higher, a lot of them over that. Libraries really contributing to student success. Free textbooks for high enrollment classes are on course reserves. That really helps. I don't know, you probably do know this, but textbooks are one of those things when you survey students about if they're having challenges in classes or in their academics, one of the areas is they can't afford their books. I know it seems amazing. It happens at OU as well. Food insecurity, I'm not going to sidetrack too much. You wouldn't think that happens in our county? It's here. So these are the kind of things that the library are helping us with the books. We have a picture there of a new quiet space in the library, and over 4,000 students served by course-embedded library instruction. Macomb, I didn't see Julie Dichtel here, but fast track programs there are growing. We were looking at opportunities to potentially grow them more. They had an 8%. Oh, Julie's right here. Sorry, Julie. Julie Dichtel, everyone. Let's. Sorry. See, when I make a faux pas, you get extra attention. There you go. Global engagement. Rosemary Max, I think, is traveling actually, and that's a challenge right now with the coronavirus scare. But she is traveling internationally right now. She was able to write a grant for $410,000, which we got to partner with Pakistan on a program. And another $25,000 grant came through as well. So we see some global opportunities there. So I'm going to go back to the Masters in Engineering for a moment. I don't know if you could read this well, but this was that salary survey. You see, I've heard of a couple of these schools. MIT, yeah, I think, they're number one. Stanford, I think it's on the West Coast. And then Oakland University. So kudos to engineering. Yeah. And Louis Shamra. Really is remarkable. When I said Oakland academic programs meet market demands, these are small. Apologize for that on the left side. But look at this site sometime. It comes from the state of Michigan, office right out of the governor's office. And they list bachelor's degree or higher, what are the jobs that are needed? Accountants, auditors, civil engineers, computer and information systems. You'll see healthcare sprinkled out there, physical therapists. There's a wide range. But when you look at what most of our graduates leave OU with, 24%, the largest number, are in a health-related field, and that matches a lot of the job needs that we have out there. Business-related fields are second, with 16.7%, and then engineering with 10%, and it's growing. So we do offer the degrees that we need here in the state of Michigan, and with all the emphasis on career tech and shortages of manufacturing jobs and all those things, which are real, what we do in producing four-year graduates really helps our state and our region. Laura mentioned the HLC. I don't want to underestimate it. It's worth saying again. Is Ann Hitt here? Ann is here. Ann Hitt led the team with Joy Cunningham. Joy's here as well. This is an enormous task to put together all the information for a reaccreditation, which happens every 10 years. Ann didn't guarantee me she's going to be here for the next reaccreditation. But you know what she did tell me? She saved the files. So could be important to somebody in the room because they did not save them when she had to look them up. She had to find a lot of stuff and piece it together from the last reaccreditation. So they gave us the 10-year reaccreditation with a very modest thing to do in what is a normal 4-year assurance review, which is already scheduled anyway. They do a 4-year assurance review, and they told us just to do one thing, to survey how our course overview, our curriculum overview process is working. And it shouldn't be a problem. What they were looking for is, do we use external viewpoints when we assess our curriculum? So that was the only one thing they asked us. And here are some other accreditations for the university. I won't go through them all. I mentioned LCME. Having accredited programs is a big advantage for a university like Oakland, and we have a lot of them. OU is only one of 5 universities to grow over a 10-year period, just one of 5. Now, 2 of them, Michigan and Michigan State, they're not really comparable. They draw a lot of out-of-state students. I know it's hard to read this. I highlighted the 5 in yellow. OU had 18,500 plus students in 2010, and we had 19,013 in 2019, with some higher marks in between. But look at all those schools and at some of the, I shouldn't mention the schools, but I'm going to mention the first one. Central Michigan at the top of that list, 28,000 students in 2010, 19,243 in 2019. I take no solace in this, by the way, 0. This is dangerous for us when you see that kind of drop. So when we talk about an enrollment crisis, it's here. And it's affecting us too, and I'll get into a little more of what we're trying to do to circumvent the challenge. But this is a scary, scary list. And at the bottom of it, the totals, 300,000 students graduated, 300,000 student enrollment in 2010, 280,000 in 2019. So when I'm in the midst of that, is Dawn Aubrey here? Just checking. Maybe not. Enrollment, Dawn's at everything. Okay, anyway. The enrollment management team has done a remarkable job. In the midst of what you just saw, our largest class ever in 2018, largest ever freshman incoming class, 2,700 students. In the midst of what we're talking about here, this past year it went down slightly. And we're just talking about freshmen, first-time freshmen. So to do that in this environment is remarkable, and I'll talk about why I think when we get to some of the other weaknesses and challenges, we'll talk about this a little more. All right, for faculty, for the registrar, Trish Westergaard, and everyone else, we signed a lot of transfer articulation agreements. There's Trish right there. We were, just 2 years ago, I think we did a State of Academic Affairs, we had dropped to 5th in the number of transfer students compared to our peers. We're number 1 again. So congratulations to everyone for doing that. But the challenge will be to stay there. That's going to be the challenge for all of these good things. Every month, every year, it's a challenge to stay there. 3rd in the state for adult learners. I'll come back to that. That's really interesting. Freshman class. I talked about largest freshman class ever. It also had the largest highest academic profile. That's not an easy feat. Typically what we're seeing from our peers when the enrollment drops, exactly the opposite. The academic standard's lower, but we're seeing that we had the highest. We had the most applications ever last year. It's not tracking quite that well this year, just as an FYI, but our yield is looking pretty good this year. International enrollment is at 911. That's 4.7% of our student body, and the goal is to get to 10. Or I was kind to mention the graduation rate. You know, this certainly isn't just the provost's office. This is a team effort with Glenn McIntosh and student affairs and everyone across campus. But the numbers are going the right direction, thankfully. Right? When I arrived in 2013, the class that was the 2007 incoming class had just graduated in 13, and the 6-year rate was measured at 43%. It is now, with the class that 13 incoming class graduated in 19, 57%. That's not easy to move. So to go higher than that, every inch is going to be really hard. So all the efforts we're doing now, we have to work even doubly hard to make it, and it's going to be exponential to make it move. Or I had mentioned this, it was 15% for the 4-year rate when I got here in 13. It is now 30. I don't know that we take pride in 30, but at least it's moving in the right direction. Number of degrees awarded, highest ever this past year. Highest ever. This means something. Students are graduating. You got 4,315 students who graduated compared to 13, 3,577. I'll talk about research for a moment. We did, since I've been here, sort of alter how the research office functions. We hired a person, Dave Stone, who's here, who has brought in some new strategies and ideas in working with deans and departments and faculty. And the latest chart shows a 3-year trend that's really pretty good. I mean, it's going the right direction. We all want higher numbers. But if you take a 3-year scan of it, the top total grants and contracts have gone up 40% in 3 years. And that's 7,500, 6 million, just about 7 million in 18 and 10 million plus in 19. And the other numbers reflect some, like state local government growth, for example, we weren't doing very much before. If you take a look at the third line down, 207,000 in 2017 is over 1 million now. So these are the kinds of numbers going the right direction. Again, I think continuing to grow that way becomes a challenge. Funded PIs, this is another really important metric. How many people are actually getting grants? Well, we've got it up to 91. It was 71 and 66 the 2 years before. So that's moving in the right direction. The more PIs funded, the more all those other numbers are going to go up. The PI Academy, which is a little note here on the left-hand side about that, which is something Dave brought from his previous work. We've had 84 participants, and 25 of those are funded now. And they brought in $5.8 million. Let's give a hand to all the faculty and everyone who's done that great work. I think Dave will be the first to say this is about the faculty work, but we need to provide the venue and the support systems for them to move forward. Community engagement, Kevin Corcoran's here. Kevin not only serves as the Dean of College of Arts and Sciences by day, but also as the Chief Community Engagement Officer, I think by day as well, actually. But and I saw Dave Dulio in the room, I'm pretty sure. Dave's done a remarkable job bringing not only Lech Valenza here, but Madeline Albright was here with Liz Slotkin. Great, if you were able to see that talk, regardless of your political slant. What a really interesting conversation that was. And that's through the Center for Civic Engagement. Went really well. Math Corps is coming due to the good efforts of the OU Pontiac Initiative. Math Corps is working with elementary level students in Pontiac. They're going to be coming here to campus in the summer, I believe, and we're hosting that. And it really is a program that improves math performance for youngsters, and obviously when they get to college, you know, we're really helping them out. OU Pontiac Partnership, Dave Strubler, I don't know that Dave's here, but we did take part in that Marshall Plan, even though we had some concerns about funding, you know, non-degree, 4-year degree programs. We did play, and we got a grant, and it's one that Dave Strubler helped co-fund, co-lead, and we got a $150,000 grant for some work for pre-professional training there. I saw Judith Ablisser here. Judith with CETL has done some great work with our faculty. Our faculty do great work in CETL. Every time I'm invited to go over there to talk to our faculty, we have some of our really terrific faculty members thinking about things like, how do you evaluate teaching? I know if you do read, I mentioned the Chronicle and Inside Higher Ed, if you read any of those, you see that student evaluation of teaching is not the only way we should be trying to measure quality teaching. We know that. And I know that. And we're going to have to develop other things besides that show quality teaching. So one of the things we did last year, a task force got together and said, let's take a look at the, I'll call it evaluation or survey process, and how could we make that better, for one thing. And they came back with recommendations, which we are looking at implementing now. Task Force 2 is in process right now of saying, all right, we're looking at that stuff with the teaching evaluations, but what are all the other things we should be measuring? Multiple measures of looking at quality teaching. So that when it comes to, you know, we pride ourselves in student success, in research scholarship. You got to be able to measure those how, and we want a fair way to do that for everyone. I saw Cynthia Myrie here. If you don't know Cynthia, she was named as our second Provost Faculty Fellow for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The idea of creating this slot in the Provost office was to have faculty-to-faculty efforts in thinking about how can we think about how to diversify our faculty. How can we think about all the initiatives across campus that we can do, especially in academic affairs in this case, to help with that goal of being a more diverse and inclusive campus. So we created something called a postdoc program, And we did this for diversity, and the faculty members we were able to bring in as postdocs indeed brought different backgrounds to our campus than we currently had in those areas, and that's been successful. We hope to be able to continue that program. We developed a DEI University Ad Hoc Committee with Cynthia's help, and great help here, I should say. The Diversity Advocate Program, 62 faculty members trained so far and more coming. And what the diversity advocates are doing, they're sitting on search committees, and as we're looking at searches, everything from the way job descriptions are written to hiring and interviewing, the diversity advocate is helping those committees think about things differently than they had in the past. So we think that's really helping. DEI-related training for faculty we're talking about. We're doing it. Created a Diversity Advocate online training partnership. We just saw this. It was just demonstrated to us at Cabinet. It's great. It's really, really great. And you can go online and look at how this training is built. We have a Diversity Advocate resource page. We have a template for deans that is under development. And we are going to have a diversity award now, which we're doing for the first time this semester. And you'll see that, I think, our Founders Day awards ceremony. Professional and continuing ed, Michelle Piskalich has a lot to do with this, oversees it. Lori Kroos does, working with all of our deans. 170% growth. Now, percent sometimes doesn't mean much, I get it, but you need to know what you're working from. But I can tell you that it's really ramping up some of the dollars coming into the university on the non-credit side. And this, I'm saying this because while it's under the strength category, it's an opportunity as well. This is something that, as we see enrollment potentially dropping, we're going to have to make up that funding in other ways. And one of them is the non-credit. An example, right now, we mounted it, Dean Mazzio and Lori Kroos and others put together a data analytics program for FCA. We're teaching it at FCA, 26 students involved in the program, $300,000 of revenue for the university. So that's the kind of stuff we want more. Right? We want to do more of it. Implementing Destiny Solutions. This is a system that will help us do better and easier non-credit registration. And we have Destiny Solutions now. It's being implemented. Right now we're doing about 3,000 to 5,000 registrations in this area. We expect it to climb to 10,000 soon, especially with the implementation of this new software, which will make it easier. And we're doing more with outreach, like with the OPC and places like that through PACE, as well as, and I know you've read about these things, badging and other types of certificates programs. So we're really working on that through PACE. Now we land on a fun topic, facilities. I put it in the strength area, didn't I? Well, we know that it's both a strength and a weakness for OU. We could talk about almost a lot of these things in the strength and weaknesses areas. But at least a strength right now is moving very much in the right direction, South Foundation Hall. This will really be an upgrade for our teaching at OU. There was a transition at the governor's office, and just recently, I think Michelle and Pat Engel went up to Lansing to testify to the current administration about what South Foundation Hall project is, because they still need to give us the funding. They will. Rochelle told me they will. So they will, and we're going to get that project is moving forward. Wilson Hall is another one that will help with classrooms, consolidate offices, student services, and that's also tracking well forward. Varner Hall, I know, it's on there. Varner Hall's on there, $45 million. It won't be enough, I'm going to say that now, but I'm looking at the people who live over there. The challenge on this one will be, I'm leaving this with you. Call me when you figure it out, but I think this is going to be a tough one. Swing space is going to be really a trick. Right, so as we do the upgrade in Varner, we've got to put those folks somewhere. And this is going to be an ongoing conversation. It'll be a conversation right now about plans and contingencies for being able to do that. A research building, I just put it up here. It's in the idea stage. It's in our strategic plan. It's in our master plan. We need more research space, and we're thinking about potential building on campus, potential. We've looked at renting facilities. It's in the idea phase, and I'll leave it at that for now, but there will be more to come on that. Oh, it took us that long to get to weaknesses. All right. But here we are. I'll start with the most obvious one. Well, maybe it's not the most obvious one. It's pretty obvious. We're 44th in the country for funding for higher ed. And this is an article that was in the Michigan Daily. In 2001, this little chart says, we were spending $230 per resident for higher ed, and now we're spending $195 per resident. It's a lot of years later. So it hasn't gone up, it's gone completely down. Demographics in Michigan, how many times have you seen this slide? I don't know, but a lot, right? This is one that shows these are the projected high school graduates in Michigan through after 2030. That is going way down, folks. So for us to think we're going to continue to outpace, I hope we do, by the way, outpace the demographic, we have to be planning that we might not. So we're doing everything we can to out-recruit everyone, and we're doing it. But this tells us if we don't have some other plans, that's not going to probably be the only solution. Another slide that just reinforces the point, and it's a little bit of a big one, but this nationally, college enrollment, we mean college university enrollment, has decreased for the 8th consecutive year. So it's going down everywhere as a whole. Four-year publics have gone down 0.9% this last year, but that's after some other declines. It's been kind of in the flat range to down for 4 years. Look at the two-year public way on the right, though. That's way under. Community colleges, they're hurting. The four-year for-profits, just be glad we're not one of those. That's tough. And overall, all sectors down another point. You can see it's down every year for the 8 years. So that's a tough picture. So what's it doing to OU? I mentioned we're recruiting these great freshman classes, and that is really, really good. That can't do it alone for OU. The next challenge, because what's happening is you can see we're losing some enrollment over, I got this circled there from 16 through 19. That's not necessarily all new students going down, because you've seen some of the new students have been going up. So what's going on? We'll get to that in a second. What this is about credit generation, though. Sorry, it is enrollment. I got credit generation right here. And that one arrow that flew over there up the very bottom right hand of the screen, we were down 2.2% in credit generation for 17, 18, and down another 0.2% for this last year, 18, 19. And I see John being in the room. What he's looking at every time we have enrollments. Yeah, the head count is interesting and good, because they usually correlate to credit generation. But if the credits are down, that's what students pay for. And this is the picture that's making it a challenge for OU. So when we talk out of the provost office, when you talk to your deans, when you think departmentally, and take a look at which programs are robust, which ones are growing, which ones are not, we have to be really strategic now about where we can put faculty members, where we can teach our courses, how we can have a viable financial footing to be able to do all the great academic work that we need to do. And we can't just let this float from year to year. This has to be really planned out. So it's part of the SEM process. It's part of academic planning with deans and everything else. So I mentioned, okay, so what's up with this? You know, freshman class looks great. How come we're losing students? Yeah, that's a good question. So this pie chart gives us a picture of it. Song Yan is here. I see Song, Director of OIRA, and Ruben. They both do great work in getting us the data we need. This largest part of the pie shows us that overall, I don't mean just freshman class, overall 65% of our students return to school the next year. So where do the rest of them go? All right. Well, I'll follow the bullets on the right-hand side, too. I also put an extra point. Our freshman number, this is the one that U.S. News World Report uses and everyone else. It's the first to second year number. That's been stuck for us, and we need to unstick it. It's been 76 to 78% since 2012. We've got to get that going in a better direction. Got some ideas about that. So here's what's challenged us, though. We've improved our graduation rates, yay for everyone, absolutely, and our students mainly. We're doing the right thing. We want them to graduate faster. But then what happens? They don't come back. So 20% so 65% come back, 20% graduated. Good. The one that worries me is the one that's in gray, did not return, but in good standing. They could have come back. They didn't. We're trying to find out why. Some of them had financial problems. Some of them might have transferred to another university. Some of them maybe left college. And we're trying to dig deeper there. We use clearinghouse data to find out if they registered somewhere else. Another 4.3% on this pie chart didn't return because they were dismissed, usually academic issues. So what does that tell us? Well, we could take two views on this, and I'm going to pontificate for 1 second on this. We could say they're just not, it's their problem. And what we're hearing universities say instead, the ones that are really doing well with, and even better with student success, are saying, let's not say it's just their problem. What if it's ours? What are we doing to try to keep those students getting off to a good start their first semester, second semester, third semester, et cetera? Where are the interventions that we can signal when we see somebody heading down the wrong path, that we can pull them out of that? That's really important for us. Revenue, oh boy. Guess what it is on the left side if you can't read it? Where's most of our money come from? That's all your tuition dollars at work right there. And that's 80+% of our revenue at the university. The second highest bars you're looking at there are state operating. That's a long way down, but that's where it is. So we'll talk about that in a minute, about what we might be able to do for that. Auxiliary service activities bring in some other dollars, but because we're so tuition dependent, we're not very different, by the way. You know, or kindly mentioned my next move to a private. I'm going to a private institution. They're about 88% tuition driven. We're 81. It's not that much different. So same challenges almost. So additional challenges: low level of state funding, limited funding for strategic initiatives. Faculty-student ratios have been challenged. Staff-student ratios, because we can't hire enough people. Lack of adequate space to accommodate existing and future needs. Opportunities, yes, I know, that was me. I had an opportunity to throw a fastball right down the middle. Didn't quite happen that way. It's okay, but I had the chance. All right, so I want us, Oakland University, to throw the fastball right down the middle. And I'm a native Detroiter. That was a big deal for me, by the way, just so you know, to be on the mound at Comerica Park. So Aura's right in front here. I'm going to credit Aura with, this is the first time we have ever really gone to Lansing and pushed pretty hard to say, you know what, we're last in the state in state funding. We're last. $3,000-ish per student. The higher level is around $9,000 per student. Wayne State has about that. And there are even higher ones. But $9,000 per student to $3,000. Now, even if you account for differences of mission, activities, that's an enormous gap. So I think it's really been a great strategy. Strive for 45. How many know about it? Just okay. Aura, yeah, you saw Aura was here. You had to raise your hand. I know. Now, actually, every room I've gone into and mentioned it, people know, just so you know that. It seems like people have gotten it, they get it. And I think the move is really great because it's not just saying, hey, we don't get enough money at OU. What it's saying is, establish a floor of $4,500, which, by the way, we had in 1999. That's what the state did for 1 year. 1999, I said, $4,500 per student. And now we're at $3,000. Because we grew, some places didn't. And the ratio went way out of whack, and they didn't keep a floor funding in at all. So even if we go back to 45, it doesn't just help OU. It helps Grand Valley, helps Saginaw Valley, helps U of M Flint, helps U of M Dearborn. I can't remember if there's anyone else in that mix. There might be. But we would get, if they established it, we would get $24 million more in annual budget. Did you hear that? We'd have some happy people in the room for a minute. Then we'd run out of money again. No, I'm just kidding. But there are all these kinds of things to do. So this is big. Even if they don't go to 4,500 floor right away, if they start moving in the right direction. So here's what you can do. Talk to your legislator. Find out who your local legislators, your senators, your congressmen are. Talk to them. Send them a note. Tell them, Oakland went out with Strive for 45. Support it. And that's what you can do. I mentioned adult learners. This is another opportunity for OU. We're third already. We're not even trying that hard. I mean, I'd say that a little facetiously. We try hard at everything, but we just started some real specific adult learner initiatives. And we're already, our enrollment's third highest in the state for adult learners. Age 25 and above is for the definition. So what does that tell us? Well, there's something like 600, and the number changes on me, 650,000 people around us with some college and no degree. Those are our adult learners. That's our market. So what are some of the things we're doing? Enrollment and retention, SEM plan, 5 goals. Strengthen our FIDIAC class, which already has been pretty competitive. Improve student success, measure retention and completion. You saw my pie chart. Our challenge is to get them to come back, the ones who aren't, especially that 10% who leave and don't have to leave. Expand credit generation, online learning. We still have big opportunities in online. We just saw a presentation from Sean Moore and his team. Faculty are working hard on this. We appreciate it, and I think some of the online part isn't a savior in itself, but it is the delivery method that a lot of our adult learners want. So we're going to really need to get there on that. Increase graduate enrollment and improve graduate student retention is also part of it. Increase the diversity of all student populations. This is all part of SEM. We're taking part in something called EAA, Excellence in Academic Advising, and I'll just make a quick point of this one. That's an ongoing process. When I talked earlier about those students who don't come back or get dismissed, academic advisors, our faculty, everyone plays a role in this, but our advisors are really strong here, and they already know a lot of good things that we can and could even do better to help those students. And this process we're doing with the Gardner Institute and the CATA, which is the Professional Organization for Advising, is to try to get at those students to keep them here. We're also taking part, Ann Hitt is leading with the APLU, some good universities that we're a cohort with, Bowling Green, Illinois State, Kent State, Miami University, all these universities with us here, looking at a project that would increase our undergraduate degrees, that would eliminate the achievement gap between URMs and the student body at large, and to also look at how we use data in this work. And that Campus Technology ran an article about us and our sister institutions here. Powered by Publix is the name of the project, and there's a data literacy cohort that we're part of, and they're going to pay for training for about 20 of us to take part in this, so that's really great. Other academic affairs initiatives. Financial aid optimization. We spend, this last year, we spent about, the year before was in the 50s, 50-some million dollars on financial aid. And we get from the state about 50-some million in financial aid. This past year, it was higher. It went to 60 million that we spent plus on financial aid. So what we need to do, unless we get the strive for $25 right away, which would be great, we're going to need to leverage our financial aid dollars better. So we're doing some good work on how to leverage the dollars. Golden Grizzlies graduate program. This is really interesting. We're getting quick traction on this. This is for students who've stopped out. Some of those students I was talking about, they went for, some of them, 3 years to a university or more. They have a couple classes to get a degree. We're reaching out to them and saying, if we give you a $500 break on what you owed the university, would you come back? And we've had a lot of them come back. We had about 9 of them graduate right away. We only did it last semester. We had 9 of them graduate in the December commencement. Got 30 signed up for graduation this coming semester of these kind of students. There's about 139 of them in the pipeline right now. We think there are going to be more. Detroit Drives Degrees, something Aura is chairing, our president with Detroit Regional Chamber, and it's an effort to, our governor came out, we were one of the last states to do this, that we want 60% attainment. That means 4-year degrees, but also certificates and other kinds of things. 60% by 2030. And we're in the 40s right now. I forget the exact number, but we're in the low 40s. So it's a long way to go to get this up to 60%. But it's a state goal, and Detroit Drives Degrees is working on it too. Curriculum mapping. I'm throwing that out there to faculty. We haven't finished. We got to get going on this. This is something I think will help our students. What does it mean? Curriculum mapping. You walk in and say, "Oh, I'm getting the sign from Stephanie Lee." Okay. Curriculum mapping means how do you get through your curriculum in a very seamless way without getting sidetracked. 120 credits, some programs are doing that. We're seeing a lot of our graduates get out of school with lots of credits 150, 160, 170, even higher. We'd like that to come down. And here's a picture right off my iPhone from the Student Success Conference last week, which was terrific. And we do well with that, and we get some great strategies around student success. All right, some new degrees. I won't walk through them. Here are a lot of them. I don't know what Bill Nye's doing there, but anyway, so there he was, Learner Vitality. We did a lot of new degree programs. There's some revenue that comes from those. We did some 4+1s. The fast track courses I talked about in Macomb. Online, we've got some over 6,000 enrollments in online. Sean Moore's in the room, just updated some of this data. 20 graduate programs, 2 undergraduate. We're trying to grow all this. SEHS, SON, SBA, and CAS are doing a lot of work in these areas, and these programs are ramping up. I'm not going to read through them all. I get asked this by board members all the time, but I get asked by others. Okay, you're adding all these new programs. That's nice. What are you cutting? It's just a provost question. So what we've done, and Peggy Cook is here. Peggy, I know, always be friendly to Peggy. She has all the money in the office. And we work hard at this to try and think about shifting dollars, saving dollars. So without reading through all of them, you can see some of the work we've done to save dollars. We've eliminated several administrative positions to the tune of $1.3 million of savings. Reallocated to other positions, $1 million. Positions funded through reallocation, $2 million. Faculty positions, new positions created through reallocation, $6.1 million. You get the idea? This is what we do in our office. So while you don't see it all the time, and while board members don't, and I need to maybe talk to them before I leave about what we do in our office, you can have a public kind of thing that says, what are we going to cut if you're in budget crisis, right? You could do that. We're doing it behind the scenes, and I hope we don't have to go to that public kind of effort like a lot of our sister institutions have to say, we're cutting $50 million from the budget. That's pretty extreme, but whatever it would be. But so far, we're handling it behind the scenes. In new revenue, $5.2 million from some of those new programs in new revenue, and differential tuition, which is something John Bean and I talked about when I first got to campus, and we put it in. It's generating some dollars, $3.7 million, not insignificant. All right, I know it's getting, I'll have to move through here. I did want to show this slide in terms of faculty hires at the university. We have been able to grow the full-time faculty here since 2013. It was at 507 when I arrived in 13. It's at 560 now. That was not an easy thing to do in the budget environment. Through some of those reallocations and shifting around, where you hear a lot of universities being criticized for part-time hire and using mostly part-time faculty. We shouldn't get that criticism here. I mean, yes, we use them, of course, we have to, but we have been able to make a move in the right direction. Student-faculty ratio, I just had Song do this and Ruben in the office. When I got here, it was 22-1. Latest figure shows us at 19-1, so we've made a dent. This is one of those quality measures that everyone looks at. Threats, I better move quickly, okay, but threats. This perception of higher ed. Recent college graduates have highest unemployment rate in decades. Here's why universities are to blame. Forbes. Thanks, Forbes. I'll just make the main point here. They're talking about underemployment, by and large. And if you look at this, I don't know if you can see this chart. Not surprisingly, could you be underemployed and get a degree? Yeah, you get your degree, but you don't end up in the job your degree trained you for, right? That's what we're talking about. So who's least likely to end up in that category? Engineers are at the bottom of that list because they're least likely to be underemployed. Computer science, communications, look at that. They're near the bottom of that list. That's pretty good. Social sciences, visual and performing arts, who expected that, right? I mean, that's kind of there. And it goes on, but these are the kind of things we're fighting in terms of threats. 43% of recent college graduates are underemployed. I'll leave this slide at that. But that's the Burning Glass study, but also it came out with, the Fed came out with similar numbers. So we're going to have to, this is something we're going to have to pay attention to. Really, without feeling like I'm going through it really fast, the report goes on to say you're still better off getting a four-year degree than doing anything else. Student debt, we talked about it, went over $1.5 trillion. That was a couple years ago. It's a lot of debt, but look at the next slide is what I want to show you. If you get a bachelor's degree, your percent is 5 nationally. For default, sorry, should have made that clear, default rates. At OU, it's 4.4%, just 3 years out. So we want it to be zero. Yeah, I get it. But this stuff, the drama we hear about 1.5 trillion and no, you can't pay. If you get your degree, you get employed. Americans' views of college education. This is a little scary by Gallup. 2013, 70% of the population said higher ed's important. 2019, 51%. Scarier to me, 18 to 29-year-olds, 74% said it's important in 13, 41% in 19. Not a good thing. Who are these guys? All right, some final notes. School of Music, Theater, and Dance has been, since I've been here, it's just a few since I've been here things. The School of Music, Theater, and Dance, kudos to certainly Jackie Wiggins, Kevin Corcoran, and, we were able to get that done, which was great. Grad school, chief research officer, and some of the other things on this list. I don't need to read them all. I'm proud of what we've done, but really it's the work everyone has done. And teamwork is really what this is all about. I got to say it, Michelle Piskolich, Peggy Cook, Stephanie Lee, when I first got here, were there. I don't think I missed anyone who was there when I first got here. Since then, Joy Cunningham, Ann Hitt. Without that team, none of this happens, and they're really, really good. The teamwork on the right-hand side was, or a zipper got caught when we were doing your inauguration. It was actually a really dangerous moment for me because I had to reach down, and I didn't know how that would play. All I can say is, really, this has been more than an honor and a real privilege. This is a great group of deans, I can tell you that. Cabinet, these are people we don't always agree, all of us, deans too. That's what makes this a fun job, an important job. The differences of opinion get us to places, and I believe that. And I think that OU will thrive because of it, because of the good people here. So I appreciate you allowing me to have the honor of being here for 7 years, and it's been a real treat, so thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks. That's where I do it. All right. People may have to leave. A few folks asked if I'd play the guitar. I got to tell you, one thing this job isn't so good for is practice time. But can you guys turn this one off yourselves back there? This one? Okay. All right, so I'm going to play a tune. I grew up on the east side of Detroit. Started playing in bands when I was like 15 years old or something. And I played all kinds of music, rock, jazz, got a classical guitar degree from Wayne State University. I'm going to play a song called Here's That Rainy Day. Don't try to connect that with my outlook for the future or anything. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much. Means a lot. Thanks. Thank you. If I had time, it'd be more Beatles, but that's later. Thank you for coming.